Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Thyroid Hotline. I'm Missy Beavers. I'm your host, and I specialize in gut and thyroid health. I'm joined today by my friend and a success coach in my program, Stacey Price. Hi, Stacey.
Hi, how are you?
So good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. I am really excited to talk today about histamines because this is a topic that we get questions about frequently. And even among our clients, we've been talking about this a lot because as we're recording this, it is the beginning of May and it is a beautiful bloom season all over North America. And a lot of people are experiencing high histamines because of the allergens and the pollens in the air. So I'm excited to talk about this. Stacey, are you?
I am so excited. Histamines is the perfect timing to talk about this now.
Yes, we have chosen a spring subject. Now, for those of you watching the YouTube version of this, and if you're wondering if I have been punched in my eye, I have not. I just came very prepared for this call with my own histamine reaction. Stacey, you can see it.
I can see it. It's quite large.
Let's describe to the listeners what's happening. What do you see?
So above your left eye, super puffy
Yeah,
and swollen.
that's exactly what's happened. So, like from
Yes.
my pupil over, it's swollen up into my eyebrow and just red and puffy. And I am having a histamine reaction. So I did not plan this for the call, but you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being the example.
I'm here to be an example of a histamine reaction. So yeah, this has been happening. Every couple of months I'll have this happen with my eye, but it's generally in response to being around cats. And I'm not usually allergic to cats, but this is something that's been happening. Every couple months. But yesterday I went out for a walk with my son and it's been really windy here in Northern California. You can see the pollen in the air and you can see the trees blooming. And we live near almond orchards. So there's a lot of beautiful blooms everywhere. Anyway, we took a walk. And then when I came home, I could feel my eyes starting to swell and starting to sting. This time there was no cat interaction, but it still is a histamine response. So I would love to talk about what's going on with my eye in regards to perhaps what some of the listeners are experiencing in other parts of their body. So histamines, we hear about them all the time, but I will be the first one to admit that I had no idea what they were beyond thinking they were bad, because we often hear about them in the sense that they need to be lowered. We know about antihistamines, right, Stacey?
Yeah. Benadryl, Claritin, Zyrtec.
Yep.
There's so many out there.
Anyone who watches TV has seen an ad for one of those things. And because we have to take an antihistamine, it therefore follows the histamines are bad. And now we don't want them anymore. They're terrible. So it was in my nutrition research that I started to really become curious about histamines and want to understand why. Why do we have these? And why are they so bad? And I want to explain this before we jump into them at all, because they're not bad. They're fantastic. What histamines are is a response to something entering our body that is not us. So our immune systems have one job. It's to decide what is you and what is not you. That's the main job of our immune system. And when we experience something from the environment or from food or even inside of us, even stressors, when we experience something that is foreign, that is seen as a threat. So it could be pollen, it could be some type of environmental thing. It could, like I said, food. It can be anything that enters us that is not us. So what happens is our body notes that as an invader and it tags it with histamines. So our white blood cells go and they find that problem, and histamines are essentially a spotlight. They turn the light on, or basically they're giving a mayday call for the immune system to come and take care of that thing. So in the sense of my eye right now, I probably got something in my eye when I was walking yesterday. And the histamines are saying, wow, invader, problem, pollen, allergen in the eye. We got to take care of this. And the inflammation happens when the immune system comes, and it's going to help bring down this invader. So histamines are not bad. They are helping to identify the cause of the problem. Why they become bad is when we get so many of them that we're not able to keep up with the symptoms. So let's say, for example, we inhale a pollen, since we're talking about allergy season, environmental allergies. We inhale some pollen from these beautiful blooming trees and flowers. It gets into our nasal, our sinuses. It's in our body now. The histamines start to be produced because these are not us. Well, what happens now is these histamines are in the bloodstream. And now they're going to start wreaking havoc because within the body, there's multiple types of histamine receptors. And these histamines are going to bebop off of those receptors and create some problems. So I just talked about they can create inflammation at the site, as in it's in my eye, or the histamines can be in the bloodstream and they can create issues hair down, head to toe, anywhere in the body. So the histamine receptors that we're most familiar with are the histamine receptors in the sinuses, the eyes, the nasal cavity, which is where we get the itchy eyes, the watery eyes, the sneezing, the stuffy nose, or the runny nose, or, you know, the nasal symptoms that we hear on our commercials while we're watching TV. I think we all could quote a commercial, right?
Yeah.
Itchy, watery eyes. So those histamine receptors, when they get bounced histamines on them, they're going to activate with that symptom. So now we're having quote unquote allergy symptoms, and we've got these, our face is completely swollen and we don't feel good. That is one type of histamine. There are other types of histamines though, and we see these commonly with women in our program. There are histamines in the gut, histamine receptors. So if you've got high histamines and they're bebopping off the histamine receptors in the gut, they can create all kinds of gastric upset. They can create diarrhea or constipation. They can cause your stomach to produce too much stomach acid. And that's where you start having acid reflux symptoms. And a doctor who's not well trained will sometimes say that it's because you don't have enough stomach acid. I see this a lot in the natural health world, that we always assume that if somebody has acid reflux, it's because they're low in stomach acid. Not always true. It can be that you've got high histamines that are causing your stomach to overproduce stomach acid, which means that yes, you will have acid reflux. There's histamine receptors on the female organs. So if you're hitting those receptors, you'll have issues with your cycle, with fertility. It can be tied to inflammation, endometriosis, fibroids, tumors, PCOS. It can aggravate the female organs. There are histamine receptors in the brain. So if we're bopping off of those, it can be correlated with anxiety, depression, sleep issues, big time sleep issues. So what happens is we go to our doctor, we're manifesting with the classic allergy symptoms in our head, in terms of like, not it's all in your head, but in your nose and your sinuses and your eyes. And so they give you, like Stacey said, Claritin, Zyrtec, Benadryl. Those will address type 1 receptors. So those will go, and what they do is they block the receptor site for the histamine. So they don't actually remove the histamine, they just block so that the receptor site can't be impacted by it. And our symptoms go away. And we feel so much better, but we have to take it every single day because it's blocking the receptor site. And this is why so many women and many of our clients end up stuck on antihistamines, because all you're doing is blocking the receptor from being impacted. It does help a bit with the clearance of histamines through the liver, but what we really are interested in is helping your body break down the histamines. So once the histamines are made in a healthy body, there are enzymes made to break them down. And those enzymes are made in the thymus gland that sits here below the sternum. They're made in the kidneys, they're made in the gut, they're made in the liver. So our body has this fail-safe system that when histamines are high, the enzymes are going to come, they're going to break down those histamines, we're going to clear them out through our liver, the levels are good. So Stacey, do you want to guess which step most people are broken at?
The production of antihistamines in the body.
Yes, the production of the enzymes that break them down.
Mm-hmm.
We see a lot of women broken at that step because of inflammation in the gut. So if there's inflammation and imbalances of bacteria, viruses, mold, pathogens in the gut, you're not going to produce these enzymes that break up the histamines. Therefore, the histamine load will remain high. Something that we are most interested in, though, is understanding why the histamines are high to begin with.
Mhm.
And this is a different view than what you'll get in Western medicine. Because like we were talking about, you go to the doctor and they just give you something to shut off the symptom. They're not investigating why you're producing histamines to begin with. So we want to understand why your white blood cells are producing so many histamines. What is it that in response to? So it could be, like I said, environmental. Many people deal with that during blooming season. That is from environment, things going on in the environment. We want to investigate what's going on in your body that is creating these issues. Because if you have overgrowths of mold is a big one. We see this a lot with mold. If you've got mold or yeast in your gut, that is seen as an invader that will cause your white blood cells to produce these histamines. If you've got any type of other bacteria or imbalances, if you're dealing with stressors, if your adrenals are off, that can create issues with histamines and the ability to break down histamines. What am I missing here, Stacey?
No, you're right on.
We're catching them.
Yep.
I don't want to miss anything as I'm giving my bullet points. So if these things are happening in your body, then we could give you antihistamines all day. We could give you enzymes. We can supplement with the enzymes to break down the histamines. But if your cells are continually producing the histamines, it's just going to be fighting a losing battle. And we're seeing this more and more post-pandemic. I can't say the word of the thing that caused it, but post-pandemic, we're seeing more and more people struggling with high histamines chronically. And there is now a diagnosis, well, it's not new, but there's a diagnosis that's becoming more common among our clientele in the functional medicine world. And it's called mast cell activation syndrome, or it's called MCAS. And what they're talking about are those white blood cells. They're called mast cells. And those white blood cells are overproducing histamines. And because they're overproducing histamines, the body can't keep up with the clearance. And now there are symptoms all across the areas that I talked about earlier. So it's anywhere from stuffy nose down to dysregulated periods, gastric upset, and mood changes, sleep issues. Everything is impacted when the histamine load is high. So with these MCAS clients, we often do see mold at the root of that they've got these underlying colonies of mold in the gut. That mold triggers the histamines aren't getting broken down, and now we're having these symptoms constantly. At that point, people often develop intolerances to foods as well. And it can be because the histamine load is so high from other sources in the body that things going in the mouth become too much. Because histamines exist in food. They are naturally occurring. But if you have a histamine burden from other places in your body, even the food becomes too much. And that's where sisters get backed into these diets that are so limited and so bland and boring because there's problems other places in the body that are creating that. Thoughts on this? What am I missing?
It's interesting. There's a lot of symptoms that people have that they don't attribute to histamines. And we can work through that and figure out it is a histamine issue and do the supplementation to get rid of the pathogens that are causing that. But a big symptom I have is migraines.
Yes.
Migraines. And for quite a while, I was having them constantly and did a little trial with some antihistamines and things and realized that was a histamine issue. It was nothing else. And once I got that under control, I haven't had a migraine since. So also another thing is bloating, like a big tummy. Lots of women get that. And through the histamine trial that I did with the Benadryl, I realized my stomach, a lot of the bloating and the puffiness was attributed to histamines as well. So there's a lot of symptoms out there that we don't realize that it's a histamine issue.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for saying the trial, because that's something we often ask clients to do. We'll say, hey, can you try this or try that and report back on your symptoms? Because depending on how your body responds to these antihistamines, that can give us clues right away. And I mean, within days, if you respond to specific type of antihistamines, either over the counter or herbs or enzymes or supplements, if you have a positive response to that, that is a very quick way to know that this is histamine related. And like you said, Stacey, we can get that symptom down. But then we also were looking for the underlying cause of the histamine production. So the migraine piece, thank you. That's something I've struggled with in the past as well. And it often gets blamed on thyroid dysfunction, which, yes, if your thyroid's not functioning well, that can contribute to headaches. But if your thyroid's not functioning well, we often are prone to high histamines because the same infections that cause high histamines also suppress the thyroid. So it's changing the mindset from fix that symptom to what is causing all of these symptoms, what connects the dots between all of these things. And histamine is a huge dot that connects a lot of things that happen in the body. I want to talk about this in terms of estrogen, because women with thyroid issues often have high estrogen. It's called estrogen dominance, and we see this frequently in our sisters with thyroid issues. Going back to the gut, of course, is where our immune system sits. And if the immune system, if you've got any type of imbalances in the gut, the immune system becomes really inflamed and aggravated and can direct antibodies toward thyroid tissue. So this is where Hashimoto's and Graves can happen. And it's not a thyroid problem at all. It is an angry gut problem. And we want to find out what is happening in the gut that's aggravating the immune system. And in that process is creating histamines. So within the gut, though, that is our most, where most of the hormones in the body are produced. It's a little known fact. The gut is the biggest producer of hormones. It also clears hormones from the body. So what we see happen with these sisters with thyroid issues is they've got some type of underlying infection in the gut that is creating issues with clearance of hormones, meaning the estrogen is supposed to be cleared from the liver, go into the bile, exit through the gut. That's not happening properly. So estrogen levels will start to climb and we'll start to get imbalanced between estrogen and progesterone. And this is what is called estrogen dominance, meaning exactly what it says. The estrogen is dominating the progesterone. Those symptoms are usually manifest in female organ dysfunction ways. So heavy periods, clots, fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis, skin type of issues will happen, breakouts, acne, rashes. But something that happens on the thyroid side is when estrogen is high, it blocks the thyroid receptors from getting thyroid hormone. So this is where we start to see women who are taking thyroid medications, not feeling better, have high estrogen, which therefore your thyroid medication can't work as well. But why do you have high estrogen and why is your thyroid not working? And it comes back to the gut. So in the mess of all of this, if that is the reason why you have the high estrogen, well, it's probably because there's some type of infection that is creating this process. And this is where the histamines come in. So if there's an infection, your little spotlights are going to be turned on, the histamines are turning on, and now your immune system is supposed to come and fix the situation, but the histamines are raging high while we're waiting. Well, something really, really aggravating happens. Estrogen increases histamine production. So as I just explained, it's like we have the infection in the gut that raises estrogen. Well, the estrogen raises histamines. So now we've got all this inflammation from histamines. We've got all this inflammation from whatever infection is causing or whatever pathogen can cause it. And then it's suppressing the thyroid in the process. So it's this nasty spiral that happens. And the symptoms of those, I most commonly in this moment in time, see it blamed on perimenopause. And we're seeing this happen all the time. And I'm going to keep my soapbox, like maybe just one stair for the soapbox, because I could go to like the 50th floor. But I'm seeing this happen more and more in social media where they're saying, okay, are you dealing with bloating and gas? And are you having symptoms around ovulation? And are you having missed periods or short periods? Are you having changes here and there? Are you gaining weight? Are you having issues with fluid retention? That's perimenopause. And I'm hearing people say it can start in your 30s. And that's just how it's going to be. This is just how life is now, people. Just buckle in. We're going to be doing this for decades. And I am unwilling, personally, at 41, I am unwilling to accept that mentality that this is just perimenopause and we're just going to deal with it. There are things that influence the way that our hormones respond, and histamines are a big one. So if you've got a high histamine load, it's going to influence your estrogen. The estrogen is going to influence the thyroid. It's also going to influence adrenals. And then we just get this big mess of stuff going on. Something of note around ovulation, histamines also can create issues, because when you ovulate, you get a little boost in estrogen that will create more of those symptoms. And this is why some people experience ovulation flu or the period flu. It's tied to those histamine receptors on the female organs. So if histamines are already high, now you ovulate, now you start your cycle, you're gonna feel pretty rough for a couple of days. And we see that pretty frequently in some of our clients. And it's good in the sense that that's fixable. If you are noticing that at ovulation and you're noticing that when you start your cycle, pretty good clue it could be tied to histamines. So that's something that we like to investigate. Stacey, what do you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to be on my soapbox about perimenopause.
Come join me.
I will join you. I've been to the doctor. I'm 46 now, so it could be right around the corner for sure. But, I've gone through periods of time when I had multiple cycles in a month. I've also been where I've missed cycles. And every time I ask my doctor, well, it could be perimenopause. It's probably perimenopause. There seems to be no other response from doctors. So when I learned all this that you taught, I was like, phew, I'm not in perimenopause. It's just something going on in my gut. And when we modulate the gut hormones, it's going to modulate our cycles as well. So um, when we hear women in their late 30s who come to us and say, oh, everybody's telling me I'm probably in perimenopause, I'm just like, let's take a step back and dig a little deeper, because most likely it's not perimenopause. I mean, I'm sure there are some cases in their 30s, but it's not as common as now people are telling everybody, doctors and social media. So
Yeah, I love that soapbox, and I'll raise you a stair.
okay, please do.
I'll see you and raise you, because, when we were growing up, menopause was the cop out. So it was like, oh, well, she's going through menopause, and, this person has this ailment or this attitude or this mood swing, and she's in menopause.
Yeah.
And why that is so frustrating to me is that I saw that happen with my mom's generation, and now they've lowered the age. And the reason why it's so aggravating is because it's a means of labeling something without providing any intervention. Just, well, that's what it is. And the only intervention that's currently being provided is birth control, which birth control is generally estrogen based. So if women have this histamine issue going on and then they add in a birth control option that's high estrogen, well, that didn't fix the problem. It made it even worse.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that happen too. So that's my frustration with adding a label to giant populations of people that has no solution. It's like, this is what it is. Carry on with your day. Which, one more stare up on my soapbox, is happening to women every day with thyroid issues. You go in and get a thyroid diagnosis, and we have some Synthroid or levothyroxine for you, and that's it. You're going to take a pill every day for the rest of your life. So it follows the Western medical model of naming the disease and then blaming everything on it. So I guess we can't really be that mad, but I am upset that it's being perpetuated through social media and the age keeps getting lower and lower and lower. That is really frustrating to me, because as an individual, it takes our power. It takes our power to make choices and to say, this is something deeper. It has us believing that it's just something we're going to go through for a decade or two, and that's just what that is.
Yeah, and it places a fear on women in their 30s who maybe haven't had a child yet.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh my goodness, I could go through perimenopause at 37. Well, I had a baby at 37. So, no perimenopause for me, but that can be also fearful for some women. And when a doctor's saying it's like, oh no, sometimes that's considered gospel when a doctor says it. But, I would challenge people to talk through it with your doctor. Explain to me how it works,
Yeah.
and when you were diagnosed with thyroid, explain to me how this works. Talk me through it. Don't just give me a pill and send me on my way. So
Yes, I love that. And also, having the courage and the courage to ask our doctors, okay, so you're prescribing this pill, what's the long-term plan? And I didn't have courage for that for decades. I did not have courage. I just knew that I'd go in and take a pill and every day for the rest of my life. But it's interesting because if you put it in perspective with any other diagnosis you get at the doctor, you go in and you have strep. Well, here's an antibiotic. You're going to take it, for 5 to 10 days, and then you'll carry on with your life. Like there's a game plan.
Yeah.
But then there's these things like thyroid disease and menopause and perimenopause, and there's no game plan. There's no guidance. There's no timeline. It's just, this is what it is now.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's super frustrating, and like you, I didn't have courage for a lot of years. But now I want to know, you're an educated professional. Please
Yeah.
explain to me a little bit deeper. And there's a polite way we can ask, and there's a polite way they can explain. So,
Yes. And when you find a practitioner that is willing to answer and engage with you, hold on to them.
please do.
Yes, there are so many good practitioners. There are so many. And we don't
Yes.
ever like to fearmonger or pretend like we don't like doctors here. We do. We need them. We appreciate them. But finding one that works for you and is going to help have a long-term game plan for you versus here's a pill or it's just perimenopause.
Mhm.
See ya.
Yeah. No, I love doctors, and I visit them frequently. So, but
Yeah.
I have spent time finding who's right for me. And in a small town, that can be very hard.
Yes.
Travel out of town can be very difficult for some people. But if you can spend the time to find someone who listens to you, that is gold.
Yeah. I love what you said about having a pregnancy in your 30s. I want to hop back to that
Yes.
because I also had a pregnancy in my 30s, which is normal, totally normal
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Hmm.
But we had to do IVF because my husband had leukemia and a bone marrow transplant. And so I went through IVF, which meant a lot of estrogen, so much estrogen. You do shots, you do patches, and then also a lot of progesterone. But you do a lot of hormones to achieve a pregnancy through in vitro fertilization. But I was 32 when I started the process. And it was so funny because I was considered advanced maternal age. And that just was so funny to me because I'm like, I'm 32. But I was in a cohort of women who were 40s plus. And the doctor I was with, it was so funny because that's what he called me, the teen pregnancy sometimes. Here she is, the young one. But then he's like, well, when you're 40, then you become a geriatric pregnancy, which the terminology just kills me. It's just too funny.
Yeah.
But yes, I had a healthy pregnancy and a delivery at 33 and Stacey as well at 37. And there's a lot of hope for women in various ages of motherhood and those who are seeking to be pregnant at different ages. But what I want to talk about is after IVF, that's where my histamine symptoms became really bad. And I did not have the education or knowledge at that time to know it was because of all of this estrogen, so much estrogen. And I was experiencing gut related. And for me, it was translating gut and thyroid. So this is actually where I got into what I'm doing now because I had this brand new baby, the most beautiful human ever created. And my husband had overcome cancer. We had all the reasons to be delighted in this point of our life. And I was not feeling good. I was having vertigo every day. I was dealing with gut issues. My hormones were completely wrecked and was not enjoying early motherhood. And that was what pushed me into getting more direction. And I ended up going to a gut conference. This is when Bo was below 2. With my master's degree in nutrition, I'm always learning. I'm always wanting to know more. And went to this gut conference, and that's where I learned the connection between autoimmune disease and the gut. And they said at that conference that all autoimmune disease begins in the gut. And it was like this light bulb turned on for me because I had been chasing my Hashimoto's at that point for 25 plus years. I had been chasing a solution to this by finding the right thyroid pill, the right type of prescription. What can I take for my thyroid? All the thyroid supplements, all the thyroid interventions. And it had never even occurred to me that maybe it's not my thyroid. If it's an autoimmune disease, does that mean it started in my gut? What? And it was this revolutionary point for me. So I got into gut testing, started finding stuff. And one thing we uncovered really quickly was high estrogen. I was having an issue cleaning the estrogen out through my liver and then getting it out through the gut. And that made so much sense to me because I had literally injected lots of estrogen to have the world's most beautiful and perfect baby. So once I did some protocols to bind up that estrogen, to clean that out, a lot of the histamine symptoms went away. And I was doing a whole lot better in terms of how I was feeling. And then as I continued down that pathway, that's where, with working on my gut, my thyroid started working. And in time, I was able to come off of medication. I no longer need medication, thyroid medication, that I took for 28 years. So I am a firm believer that when we can find the root cause of the problem, when we can find the real issues that are triggering the symptoms, we can fix those. Otherwise, we're just guessing and we're treating the symptom. And I'm someone who believed for almost 3 decades that I would never heal, that I would be on medication forever. And that's because that's what my doctors told me. And I believed them. So we now are on a soapbox call to women everywhere, inviting them to come and find the real cause and to do proper testing. Just simply getting TSH testing at the doctor, that doesn't even tell us how your thyroid's working. That tells us if your brain is signaling the thyroid, but it can't tell us if your thyroid's working. And even if you do get a full thyroid panel, which you should get a full thyroid panel, we still don't know why the thyroid's not producing hormones well. We don't know why it's not converting. That's where we need to get more in depth with gut testing to find out what's going on in the body and what's triggering these things. So in our program, we use the organic acids test. It's a simple urine test. You pee in a cup, you freeze it, you send it to the company. That test shows us over 75 markers of things that could be imbalanced in the gut. It shows us your adrenal function. It gives us clues about neurotransmitters. So that helps with mood and sleep and energy and digestion. It gives us a full view of what's going on versus a TSH test that just tells us if your brain's communicating. I want more info and I want targeted info. So from that, we can build a personalized protocol for our clients. And one of the things I'm so passionate about is creating these protocols from scratch. So I don't have canned protocols. I don't have a portal with protocols. Every single protocol I create is specific to their individual needs. And, we've done over 1,000 protocols and no 2 have ever been the same because there's no 2 cases that are the same. So if you're working with practitioners, even in the functional medicine world, I'm seeing this happen all the time now. People go to functional medicine practitioners and they just print out a candida protocol or they print out a parasite protocol. And it's just a generic protocol that doesn't take into account your specific needs or your specific situation. So we're really, really focused on personalized protocols, personalized food and supplement plans. And then coaching is what Stacey does in the program, coaching to people's individual needs along the way, giving them direction and troubleshooting and help. We love doing that, right, Stacey?
Yeah, we do. And oftentimes, we love the information our clients give us. Absolutely. And oftentimes we'll pivot with them.
Yeah.
So we love hearing what they have to say down to the weirdest, and I do that in quote, symptoms, because that's helpful to us. And we can pivot and make changes throughout your protocol and give you the best care possible and the best attention possible for you to heal.
Totally agree. Versus just being put on a pill and saying, okay, see you in 6 months.
Yeah.
We'll just check back in then and see if you still feel horrible. Because we've all been through that.
Right.
I want to give one little tool before we wrap up this podcast. Like Stacey was saying, we love hearing from our clients about symptoms because symptoms are puzzle pieces and they're clues to what's going on with people's health. So, we'll often get people that will be like, this might sound weird, but, and that's when we're leaning in.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, what?
Tell me more.
Yeah, tell me more. I have these divots in my fingernail or my tongue is cracked or, hey, I noticed this on my toenail. Yes, we want to hear it all because the body communicates with us through these symptoms. So one symptom we hear frequently is that they drink water and they have to pee immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll ask them to drink water and they'll be like, well, I don't want to be in the bathroom all day. That's a very helpful little something that we love to hear. So when that is true, and this has been true for me, Stacey, have you ever experienced this at different points in your life?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah. True for me. I would drink water and I'm talking, maybe 2 cups, not a significant amount I'm in the bathroom in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I'm peeing, and sometimes it's more than I drink. Like, how?
How does that happen? I've asked myself this question as well.
Yeah. I remember being a receptionist in my early 20s, and it was when my thyroid was most chaotic. I was trying to figure out prescription type, prescription dosing. And I remember I was so afraid to drink anything because I'd have to run to the bathroom, miss answering the phone, get reprimanded. But I was in the bathroom all the time if I drank water. So if that's happening, we love hearing that, because that is a dead ringer for adrenal issues. And the adrenal glands they're located on top of the kidneys. They play a crucial role with our stress management, our hormone balance, and also with electrolyte balance. So what we see happen frequently is women have underlying infections, and these create stress. An infection in the body is stressful, and the adrenals have to compensate for that. So stress, we often hear as being external, right? Things that are pressing on us, our finances and our mortgage and our relationships and our kids and our jobs. And I mean, we could all name 10 stressors right now, right?
Yeah.
So we often think of stress, and we hear of stress being things outside of us. But it's important to remember, if there's infection in the body, that is stressful. And another sneaky one that we talk about a lot in my program is the soundtrack we have running in our heads. So our thought process, the things that we're telling ourselves, those can be very stressful. I know I can stress myself out just with some simple thoughts. I am that skilled. I can take me from 0 to 60 with a single thought. We all can do it, right?
Right. Absolutely.
I don't think that I celebrate my ability to do that enough.
It's like you should throw a party.
Yeah, like it's a big skill.
It's a big skill. I have that skill as well.
Yeah.
I can live out a whole sad, anxiety-ridden life in about 5 minutes.
Yes, we can create these most incredible stories. Why is this not on resumes? Like, there should be resume. It's like at the top of my resume is I have an insane ability to stress myself out with a series of thoughts.
Things that actually never will happen or have
Never.
happened.
Never.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're creating these stressful situations in our brain. That is translated to a cascade of hormones that tell the adrenals there's a problem. So they produce these hormones, and these hormones cause us to pee out our sodium, hold on to our potassium, or vice versa. So we end up with this imbalance of our electrolytes. And what that manifests as is muscle cramps, headaches, female hormone imbalances, cycle disruption, anxiety, heart palpitations. What other adrenal symptoms am I missing? Dry skin. What else do we see?
Exhaustion.
Oh yeah, the crash between 2 and 4 p.m. tells.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Not being able to sleep at night and
yep,
waking up between 2 and 4 AM.
beautiful. So the 2 to 4 p.m. or a.m. zone, very good clue that the adrenals are off, that your minerals are being peed out. So yeah, we see these symptoms manifesting, and the problem is those cross over with a lot of thyroid symptoms. So if you tell your doctor, they're going to say, oh yeah, well, your thyroid does this or that. But the key hallmark there is that the fluid is not staying in your body. So if you're drinking and you're peeing, that means your cells are not getting the fluid, and cells need fluid. That our bodies are made of fluid. So if that's happening, the cells will send out histamines as a mayday. And this can happen if you're drinking enough and it's not getting to the cells, or it can happen if you're not drinking enough. The dehydration response can cause a histamine production. And the body is doing that with the goal of saying, problem. And the solution should be drinking water. But if the mineral balance is off, you can drink all day and it's just going to end up in the potty. So a simple solution, I did a post about this on my Instagram yesterday. It's just to add a pinch of salt to your water. So sea salt. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Not iodized salt, because that will slow down the thyroid. We want you to get rid of table salt altogether. But sea salt, being Celtic sea salt, Himalayan sea salt, kosher salt, real salt, make sure it's a clean source. But you're just going to do a pinch of that in every glass of water you drink. The water should taste just slightly salty, but not overpowering. Like, you should be able to know you put it in there, but not like you're drinking straight up salt water. You also can just put a pinch right under your tongue, right in your mouth, and then drink water. You can do it either way. But the goal here is to replenish the minerals that are needed to help the fluid get into the cell. Because when the fluid's in the cell, that histamine production response shuts off, which removes one source of histamines and can help reduce the histamine symptoms. So that's just a little tip that that we give to clients. Of course, when you're having symptoms that go beyond putting salt in your water and feeling all better, that's where we need to do deeper testing. And if you want support with that, we would love to help you with that. So how you do that is on this page that you're listening to this, or thyroidhotline.com, there's a button there to apply for a call with my team to schedule your call to chat about what's going on with you. We'll talk about our program options, get you some testing, get you personalized protocol, and get these histamines under control, get you back into your life.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you want to add, Stacey?
Oh, just we love to help women. So please book the call, see what is an option for you. We appreciate you listening to this and hopefully it's helpful.
Yeah, thank you. We hope our soapboxes are helpful
Yes.
because we love to climb up on them, and now we're going to climb down.
We're going to climb down and resume our life of not worrying too much in our mind.
Yes, and I'm going to go take care of my histamine eye.
Perfect.
I'm going to go take some things that help break down histamines, so it'll be helpful.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me, Stacey, and thank you to all who joined us and listened. We appreciate you and hope you all have a happy day.